I'm going to talk to you tonight about my doctoral research, which is about birth supporter training. Could I have the next slide, please, Angela? And a little bit about the terminology. So really nice and fitting. You've just heard from Trudi about a doula. Throughout my work, I have called the people who are the same as doulas birth supporters, and I will continue to do that tonight. I'm talking very much about total volunteer birth supporters. They're all volunteers, and there is no payment involved. Thank you, Angela. Next slide, please. Thank you. Not that, that's lovely. So who am I? So Sue's introduced me beautifully, an experienced midwife and midwifery educator. And so within this research, a researcher with lived teaching experience, the research focuses on personal transformation through training as a birth supporter. Thank you, Angela. So the research is entitled The Impact of Birth Supporter Training on Volunteer Capability to Undertake Further Study or Employment, because I wanted to look at the development that we were seeing, and I'll tell you a bit more about that. Next slide, please. My research questions were sort of sequential, really, through the data collection and through the training program. So the first question is really about the motivation to actually approach this program, to want to be a volunteer birth supporter, and then to want to undertake the training. The second question is about how they perceive that training. So how's that gone for them? What have been the personal and educational effects of the 7 week, generally around 7 weeks of training that they do? It's compulsory training, so they want to be birth supporters enough to undertake this training. They can't support with this group unless they do it. So they're pretty dedicated when they get there to the training. And the third question is aimed at people who've already completed the training and are practicing as a volunteer birth supporter. And it asks, does that practice, the true practice of a volunteer birth supporter, alter their perceptions and personal and educational effects of their training once they've actually been out there and done the real thing? Next slide, please, Angela. So why now? Why this work? Well, volunteers are increasingly present in maternity care. I've put maternity care, but I realise they're increasingly present in the whole of the health spectrum, actually. And I've been teaching and supporting, working with this programme that is based in East London for 14 years. And what I've seen is something quite amazing. I started to see growing confidence out of fear, a huge curiosity in these would-be birth supporters, and a major commitment that actually I'd not seen in my teaching in other places. They turned up every week. They expressed how much they enjoyed it. They were looking forward to what was coming next, and I wanted to know why. I wanted to know what was happening. So I thought I'd explore. Next slide, please. So overview of the research. There were 27 women who participated. They were all women from that group that I've just been describing. They've all applied, been interviewed and chosen to take part in the training and become a volunteer birth supporter with a charity group called Sister Circle. They are based in East London, and they work very much, it's a women's charity, but women have families, so they support families as well. Based in East London and work mostly with vulnerable people. The research is qualitative, using a survey as they arrive, and they're just thinking about whether they will take part, looking at their motivations for wanting to take part, and their plans for the future. And then 2 focus groups, well, several, but at 2 places in the research, in the second class, after the second class that they take, and then after the end of the training. And with narrative interviews to the qualified and practicing birth supporters. I'll tell you a little bit about the theory, but I'm not going to dive you too much into theory. So the theoretical lens was a capability approach by Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum. And I added some Bourdieu and Lavin Wenger to bring in the human at the development and changing aspect, and also the belonging and fitting into a community. Thanks, Angela. So there were 6 key themes that emerged from all of that data. Before I even stepped in, thinking about the initial aspects, this came up in all areas of the data collection, but in reflection for those who'd already made progress. Something for me, and rediscovering a personal value. I felt like I could do it, and so this was a reflection. This is a reflection from the after course focus group, growing confidence and identity, feeling excited but scared, and fear and anticipation of new spaces. It changed how I see everything. A broader social awareness was growing in them, and it changed me. There were some deep personal transformations. Next slide, please, Angelo. So all 6 of those themes are very important. But in this short presentation, I wanted to just drill down into those that were the largest, those that produced the most data. And they're very interesting. Something for me, excited but scared, and it changed me. Next one, please, Angela. So something for me, rediscovering self-worth. The first time in years that some of these women had actually done something for themselves. It took them a while to start to talk about themselves. They wanted to talk about what they thought they should talk about, and that was supporting women. But once we got them going, we got absolutely loads of information. It built dignity, recognition, confidence, all related to Martha Nussbaum's philosophical theories of practical reason, affiliation, and dignity. And a little quote for each. It gave me something. It gave me something for me. It made me feel like a person again. This lady had 6 children, aged between 4 and 19. And she'd been a stay-at-home mum, which she was delighted with. But she now felt that it was really time to explore something else. So she was kind of dipping her toe in what she called the real world, which is interesting. She was very anxious in the first 2 group learning sessions, wondered if she'd done the right thing, wondered if she was being selfish. She expressed a lot of guilt, but she settled into it. She enjoyed it. She did become a birth supporter. Next slide, please. So excited but scared. You all recognise this, don't you? We've all been excited but scared, especially when you've just taken a complex course that's leading you to a role that's going to be quite challenging. That's scary, but so exciting. I only have to think about becoming a midwife. And for me, that was a very long time ago, but I still remember it. These ladies also had a fear of learning spaces. They'd often had poor learning experiences. They were frightened of health settings, but they knew that somehow they had to do this to support other women. And they were frightened of failure. Everybody's a little bit frightened of failure, but they maybe had felt they'd failed before because their education had been poor. They hadn't got what they'd wanted. Supported peer environments enabled confidence. It's really important having the peer environment because they can see now that everyone's feeling like this. Everybody has felt like this, and they can all gel together, and they do gel together really nicely as groups. The groups are still running, and I don't know how many, but there have been a lot. This is linked to Bourdieu and to Wenger, thinking about communities of practice and how important they are to assimilate yourself. I was nervous. I never thought I'd be able to do something like this, was a quote from somebody, one of them, as we moved through the programme and they were beginning to realise they could do it. Next slide, please. So it changed me is the final one that we're thinking about. Participants imagine new futures, education, employment, possibly. Somebody said, I'm going to retake my GCSEs because I didn't get much. It built agency and identity over time. And it changed how I see everything, myself, community, even the hospitals. This lady had felt scared to go into the hospital, and she expressed after the training that she now had actually approached the hospital, gone in, spoken to them, explained who she was and what she was doing, and asked to have a look around because she'd like to prepare herself for when she's going to be supporting a mum in labour. Thank you. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for midwives and birth support educators? Training spaces can be transformative, not just functional. So I think if you asked, almost all of these women would have thought that they were coming in just to learn the facts. This is what this does. This is what this does. But they learned so much more. They learned about themselves. They had a closed, peer-based, emotionally safe environment. We're very careful with ground rules and making sure that we keep the environment safe. There were comments about the teaching as well. She talked with me rather than at me. Some of these volunteers may be future midwives. I see three types here. The ones who've always wanted to do something around birth, they're not sure if they'll like it or if it'll work for them. They're having that fear already. They want to dip their toe and see if they like it. The other side of that, those who know they do, they want to apply for midwifery training, but they need some experience and some evidence to back up their application. And then the third type, and the type that really aimed for the ones who just want to support their communities. They want to come in and support vulnerable women within their environment. Educational design obviously influences belonging and capability. And so this course is linked with the Open College Network, and the students, if they want to, can take a level 3 qualification. The whole of the programme is developed with the Open College so that the assessment will also reinforce their learning as it should be. And they've always had an involvement of a midwife in training. So thank you, Sister Circle. I know some of them are here tonight. That's been very, very important. And that's really helped the birth supporters to understand what midwifery is about and put aside all of that nonsense they read in the press. And also for the hospitals, for the units, for the senior midwives to feel confident that their knowledge is strong and they understand what their role will be. Next slide, please. So final reflection, it's not about filling workforce gaps, it's about enabling growth. It's about enabling growth and development for the vulnerable women that their birth supporters support, for the birth supporter themselves, and also for the maternity service. This can be a really, really big aspect in developing the support and the outcomes, as we know, for doula care, birth supporter care. I don't need to go into because Trudi's done that for me. And yeah, it's very true. Increased breastfeeding, increased maternal satisfaction. Some reports show reduced intervention. What would maternity, I've sort of always thought about this, but what would maternity care look like if we nurtured potential and not just managed care? People say that every day, that's not new. And I would just like to say thank you very much to Karen and Sister Circle for continuing this, for keeping this going, for enabling me to be part of it, and for supporting my research with the participants. And yeah, thank you very much. Next slide, please. If you'd like to know any more about my research or about the volunteer birth supporters and the charity in East London, then please do contact me and I'll put you on the right track. Thank you very much.